Welcome back to News Talk. Area business and government leaders are asking for a review of the management structure at Metro. The Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments and the Board of Trade encouraging and offering to support an independent look at how Metro functions. It's expected that former office holders and people from the private sector will participate in the review. Joining us now here in the studio, Jim Dinninger, head of the Board of Trade, and Kwame Brown, a D.C. councilman who is chairman of COG this year. Thanks to both of you for coming in. We appreciate your time very much. What specifically do you hope happens?
Well, I think that the Metropolitan Council of Governments is teaming up with the Board of Trade, and this is just, I think, a step of many to look at the governance structure of Metro, which hasn't had a look at in, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 years. And when you start to look at what's taking place at Metro now, the real question is, you know, maybe it is time, and it's past time for us to have a review that's made up of a number of different individuals. They kind of look to make sure that we have the right structure in place so we can have a successful Metro here in the District of Columbia. No matter where you go in the region. No matter where you go in the region, people are concerned. People are asking questions, and no one that I've talked to always want to know what's going to be done differently, and I think this is the first step to do that.
Now let's differentiate, Jim. Some people will hear management and think we're talking about individuals in certain jobs at a given time. Management structure is something else. Walk us through that.
Really, the governance side of things needs to be reviewed. Frankly, the jewel of the transit in this United States has been Metro for quite some time, an area that we've been proud of for a number of years within the greater Washington region. And then it's becoming a liability, certainly a concern. It's timely to take on a review of governance. Hasn't been done in 40 years, as the chairman said. And in addition to that, when you start to talk about the fact that it was set up to build the system for the most part is built. It's the running of it now. Decision making needs to be done in a more timely manner. The funding mechanisms, the safety concerns, and all the rest flow from governance. And then you get the right general manager in there who runs the show.
Is the general manager job as it's currently constructed too big? Is it too much? Should it be broken up?
Well, it may be. Let's take a look at the governance review overall and get best practices underway for regional approaches to things. And there's not one solution out there, Port Authority of New York and New Jersey or the Bay Area. But because we're two states, the District of Columbia with the federal government presence, it's unique for us. Take the best practices from around the country, apply them here, and let's see what shakes out.
Is that among the questions that will be looked at, the Office of General Manager? Because you can make the case, and I believe Peter Benjamin, in conversations we've had with him here, is, you know, at least, I don't want to go too far, but he's at least semi-endorsed the notion that to have a general manager who is the be-all, end-all on rail, and the be-all, end-all on bus and Metro access, then has to know politics and financing and local, regional, and federal government stuff. I can see where you could divide that very full plate and still have very challenging jobs, even if they were 2 or maybe even 3 people doing them.
Well, first of all, if in fact the system that was in place worked so well, we would not be reviewing it, and we wouldn't be having the issues that we currently have. And I think the idea is to make it better. As was mentioned, that we have a great system, a great infrastructure in place. The real question is, what is the process in terms of managing the system that's going to give us the most effective and efficient Metro rail system in the country? And we have been the jewel. I think that we'll still be the jewel, and this is just another step in the process to assuring that the governance structure is one that actually will sustain itself and actually make this a better system.
I do want to get into more detail about the types of questions you want the former office holders and the private sector folks to look at. I mean, I'm not asking you to call out someone by name and say, gee, whatever, there's an issue here. But I want the viewers to have a sense, in more specifics than we've been able to talk about it so far, about what this review should do to be of value.
Well, the Board of Trade and the Council of Governments are combining their resources to tap into expertise, people who participated in the review of governance for American Red Cross, national level, for instance, people who do this for a living at the higher levels of the consulting firms, the accounting firms, law firms, and the rest will apply their knowledge along with the Council of Governments expertise to really do a thorough review to assist Metro. We're forcing this on them. Instead, it's going to be an offer to Metro that says, here are the best practices that are out there. This is what we recommend you consider. These are some of the challenges that are facing Metro as it relates to decision making or the application of funds or concerns about safety. And then with all of that in mind, well, then you can give Metro a good hard look at how they could be operating better for the next 40 years.
Is your offer then dependent on Metro saying, yes, we think a review is needed and we accept your offer?
I mean, I think right now what we're doing is actually putting together this Blue Ribbon Commission, and on the Metropolitan Council of Government side, we'll have former elected officials that have expertise not only in transportation, but also in other areas that will complement what's taking place with the Board of Trade. And I think that
but it's an offer, and Metro's a separate, standalone agency, right, whatever you want to say, and so at some point, for this to move beyond this discussion that we're having, they've got to say, yes, we accept.
Well, I think that Metro is open to anything that's going to help improve the system. And I think that the team that we're pulling together is going to be one of the finest teams in the region. And I think that the team's recommendations will be taken seriously.
And they're aware of this, Bruce. It's not happening in a vacuum. We've had consultations with them all along the way, so they're not receiving this in protest. In fact, they've encouraged us and the Council of Governments to work together on this.
To the extent that we're going to have an interim general manager for a while and a permanent general manager may not be with us for a couple of months, let's say. I don't want to be too pessimistic because I know they just put out the contract for the search firm, and the desire is to have a new leader in place as soon as they can do it, and still get the right guy, the best guy, woman for the job. Is this ultimately his or her call to really embrace in a big way? No, you're saying.
No, this really is
because
governance.
You have the board.
This is to the board. This really has little to nothing to do with the general manager, except that the new general manager should have clarity about the governance procedures, about that decision making and more, and so that he or she knows that, am I Mr. Inside or Mrs. Inside or Mr. Outside? And that's a big concern, as you raised it. Who's going to speak to the media? Who's going to do the operations? Who's going to be the transit expert versus the management expert, for instance?
And I just think this is a great opportunity and great time to put that infrastructure in place, or look at the governance structure and come up with solid recommendations, so whoever would take the helm of Metro knows exactly what they're getting, knows exactly what the expectations are going to be, but more importantly, knows exactly what's there has actually been thoroughly reviewed, and people feel comfortable how we move forward. And I think that's important.
What about the way the board itself is set up? I mean, is that
I mean, it really is. Right now you have people that are responsible for their specific area of interest as opposed to a broad regional view. Now, some do have a regional view, some have a very specific view. Well, that needs to be adjusted and looked at hard, because now with the addition of the federal presence and their $1.5 billion, there's a bit more of an opportunity to get fragmented. It needs to be a regional governance system.
Do you see a day when the board is populated more with real transit experts than with politicians?
Well, I mean, I think
to take nothing away from the politicians.
Oh, no, I can understand that.
Are or have been on the board.
Well, I think what you're going to see, and we've had some fine people from the district to serve on the board, but I think that's what this governance structure and that's what this governance model and taking a look at what it should be is all about. And I think it'd be a little bit premature to let this thing run its course. Let's take a look at best practices throughout the country and see what type of governance model actually is going to be best fit for Metro and the people that ride Metro every single day.
And Bruce, let me say, in that regard, it doesn't have to be transit experts on the board. It needs to be customer service people on the board that understand and listen to people. They understand what the best practices are. They can absorb a lot of information and help get good decisions going.
Crisis communication as well.
That's
and routine communication as well. It's all important.
Routine would be nice.
Routine, crisis, and the rest of it. Jim Dinninger is head of the Greater Washington Board of Trade. D.C. Councilman Kwame Brown is chairman of the COG board this year. Gentlemen, thanks very much for coming in and being part of our conversation today.
Thank you.
Good to see both of you, as always. We'll step aside here. Come back in a moment with a program note. Back after this. Don't go away.